Billy D here with this is the first podcast of the season, sponsored by our good friends over in Palmyra, Wisconsin, Standard Process. But I got a big YouTuber here I'm excited to bring on the podcast and bring into the CalJam fold. Josh Axe, say good morning to everyone.
Hey, Billy, thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm stoked to have you, dude. You're doing a lot of great stuff in healthcare and social media, and I kind of want to tap into that a little bit for myself, number one, and also for some of our viewers here. But let's get into your history first. You are obviously a chiropractor.
Yep.
And you went to a school in Florida. Go ahead and you can tell them what's...
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I went to Palmer, Florida. It was great. Graduated probably 8 years ago or so, 8, 9. Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah, not
You're a
long.
young kid.
Yeah,
How old are you?
35.
Oh, wow. Great.
Yeah.
And I knew the school was there, but I really didn't know much about it. You actually say it's close to the beach, which is cool.
Yeah.
And how's the philosophy there?
You know, it was okay. We had a great guy, Dr. Shreve, who was there when I was in school, and he was strong. But there's it's borderline. I wouldn't call it strong.
Right, and I try to teach the students that all the time. Sometimes you're going to need to get a little supplemental philosophy and maybe even some technique outside of school. School's good for getting you to pass the boards.
Yeah.
Sometimes people think that I rail on schools, but those are the only ones. The only schools I rail on are the ones that are trying to bring drugs into the profession, which I'm adamantly against.
Oh, yeah.
And we're seeing more and more of that in our chiropractic profession. Now,
Crazy.
So you went out of school right into private practice, or tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was a big believer in school. I did a lot of personal growth, a lot of reading, and really believed in having good mentors and being prepared going out. So I spent most of my time in school. I did a lot of spinal screenings. I went and worked in a lot of offices. In fact, my last year in school, I worked with a guy, Dr. Ben Lerner, who's in Orlando. I know you know Ben. So I worked in his office for my final year. The year before that, I worked in actually my first 2 years. I worked in Dan Yachter's office.
Oh wow!
So he wasn't far from our school. It was a 35-minute drive. So I went in every Tuesday for 2 years, and was around Dan a lot, which was a real blessing, and it was just a great guy to be around. And then when I got out of school, I went and worked in an office for a short time, Dr. Chuck Majors, Charles for a while, and then went right out into practice. And
so you opened your own practice right out of school?
I did.
Yeah, but you did all the groundwork before, though.
I did, yeah. I really kind of knew after about a year. I was in a cycling accident and got laid up, and I found this book, Body by God, started reading it, and Dan Yachter's name was mentioned in the book. And so went and saw Dan, and just from there, really just opened my eyes after hearing his doctor's report about what chiropractic is, the mission and purpose we have as chiropractors. And it was just sort of one of those things. It was just kind of like a turning point in my life. I was inspired.
Is that what got you originally into chiropractic?
Well, it's not what I was actually. I was probably in my third quarter when that happened. So I was but I was introduced to chiropractic, a great chiropractor, but not, I would say, philosophically strong.
Right.
But in terms of what really got me passionate and fired up about our mission and philosophy as chiropractors was Dan.
Yeah, and Dan also has been on, obviously, CalJam, and he spoke here at DCS as well. And so has Ben, obviously. So what was it initially that got you into chiropractic? It was the guy that who's the doctor's name?
Yeah, a guy named Bobby Haug. My dad's a big water skier. He's a semi-pro water skier, and he has a lot of water skiing buddies. Two of them are chiropractors. One went to Logan, another one Life, and so growing up, I knew those guys. And I actually was thinking about becoming a nutritionist. I went to University of Kentucky, and then Bobby was at out water skiing with my dad. I was back home one summer, and he's like, "Hey, what are you thinking about doing?" I'm like, "I'm thinking about doing this." He's like, "I think you should be a chiropractor," and I was like, okay, well, he's like, come into my office, and he was in Columbus, Ohio. I went to go visit his office, and he did applied kinesiology, and just really loved his office. I loved what he did. He was doing a lot with athletes at the time, did some nutrition stuff, a lot of chiropractic, and just I remember going in there, and somebody came in just crippling back pain, and after an adjustment, walking out just feeling amazing. I just was so impressed by that. So that's really what led me into into chiropractic school, as Bobby said. said, the great thing about being a chiropractor is, you can help people get healthy naturally, and that was just very attractive to me at the time. So that's sort of initially what led me in.
Right. It's funny because as a biochemistry major in the '70s, probably for all the wrong reasons, but I was really really into nutrition too. I mean, I don't want to say I was like leading the pack or anything, but I was really into. I mean, I was back into juicing back in college when I was a student, and back then in the '70s, nutrition was considered quackery.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't really even recognized. They really didn't even think that there was any relation to what you ate and your expression of health. Let's talk about that though, because I mean, I get a lot of
Sure.
flack. I don't know if you do, but I get because I'm trying to lead this whole chiropractic to the world thing and subluxation based chiropractic. But I don't know if you feel you get certain segments in the chiropractic profession that want to call you a mixer, but I mean, I try to teach a lifestyle that's congruent with our gene expression. I try to lead a lifestyle that I know that works for me. I mean, I've been in practice for 31 years, never been sick. I mean, I've obviously missed some time from being injured from that snowboarding injury, but those are things that you're not going to get around.
Sure.
But I don't get sick. I mean, I vibrate at a whole different level. I mean, at my age, I think I'm doing a pretty damn good job with still surfing every day and in practice in the trench every day. So, have you got any negative flack from people for being, having kind of a eclectic view on health? And I mean, obviously, we both embrace the chiropractic aspect, and I mean, it's huge in my practice. But I also teach people how to do other things other than just chiropractic.
Sure. Well, yeah, I'd love to. This will probably be a little longer answer, but I'd love to give a little
Yeah, go
background
ahead.
about,
You're
yeah,
on.
sort of my philosophy and where it comes from. And do I get flack? I get flack all the time,
Right.
from everyone, from everywhere. So people are always, people. And the thing is, I don't even read it anymore, but I get emails and
Oh, I love
messages on
it.
Facebook from people all the time telling
Right.
me what I should do with everything. And
Right.
so, but yeah, I mean, I feel like early on, especially, I did, but now I don't notice it or read it. So really, it's been a couple years since I've noticed it. But the reason why I practice like I practiced, and I mentioned this to you before the call, but I had Reggie Gold out to our school when I was in really early on. I started Maximized Living Club, and he came in and he really talked about DCs, our doctors of cause, and MDs. He said medicate and drug symptoms. So he says, and of course I know some good MDs today, but in
Of
general,
course.
but in general,
Right.
DC, and there was something that really struck me when he said doctor of cause, and it made me realize, that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be a doctor of the cause of disease. And so no matter what I have to do to get a patient healthy, whether it's give them a supplement, give them a chiropractic adjustment, or hit them in the butt with a shovel, whatever it is, that's what I'm going to do. And I had something, Billy. This happened when I was probably about a year and a half or 2 years into chiropractic college. My mom was diagnosed with cancer for a second time, and she was diagnosed with cancer previously. This was probably about 22 years ago. I was in junior high at the time,
Wow.
and in our family growing up, like we were really fit and active. So like my mom was actually she was my gym teacher in school. She was a swim instructor. She was really fit. But at 40 years old, diagnosed with cancer, and
That's unreal.
my family completely lived in the medical model. I mean, we grew up in the Midwest in Ohio. And so, anytime we were sick, it was antibiotics, it was drugs. So when she was diagnosed with
What kind of
cancer,
cancer did she have?
breast cancer. Yeah, she had breast cancer, got into her lymph nodes as well. And so she went through chemotherapy. She went through, she had a mastectomy. And I can still
Oh
remember this
man.
day, her hair coming out, her just aging. I mean, I remember looking at her and thinking she had aged 20 years in a few
Right.
weeks and just saying, I never want to see anyone have to go through that again. And praise God, I mean, she was diagnosed as cancer-free and healthy afterwards. But I mean, after going through chemo, I mean, she got sicker than ever. I mean, she had chronic fatigue. Like my mom would get home from work at 3 o'clock from teaching, and she would sleep for 3 hours. She developed a thyroid issue. She got put on 3 medications, antidepressant drugs. I mean, my mom growing up was just sick all the time, always tired, had no energy. This went on for 10 years, and finally, 2 years into chiropractic college, I got a call from my mom. She said, "Hey, I've got bad news. I've been diagnosed with cancer again. They think it's on my lung." and they want to go in and do radiation and
Oh
surgery. She said,
man.
what do I do? And, it was a real blessing at the time because I'd been connected to just some really top-notch doctors at the time. And I said, Mom, I'll be home. I flew home and we prayed together, and we both just really felt led to take care of her all naturally. I mean, I've been studying nutrition for years and years and years. I was 2 years into chiropractic college, working in these clinics. And so we talked to our oncologist. We said, hey, we'll be back in 3 or 4 months. And he said, that's not what I recommend, but okay. And so we just radically changed everything with my mom. We started juicing vegetables every single day. She started doing stuff like bone broth. We started using essential oils like frankincense. We started doing like medicinal mushrooms like cordyceps, and just a number of things. The big thing too was stress. I mean, she taught special ed for years. She was
Oh
really
man.
stressed. So, I mean, it was a real blessing. She was diagnosed in May, so we had the entire summer to where she didn't have to work. Her and my dad took vacations, went boating in Florida or boating in Tennessee down to Florida, and she just changed everything. I mean, really built peace in her life. We had her start getting it. She was not getting adjusted. Started getting adjusted 3 times a week, getting lymphatic drainage massage. I mean, her day was just getting well.
Yeah,
So
and
we
that's
went,
good though.
yeah. So we went through all of this. After 4 months, we went back to the oncologist, and um, she redid a CT scan, and we got a call the next day, and the oncologist said, "Hey, what have you been doing?" We told him. He just said, "Hmm." He just said, "Hmm. This is highly unusual." He said, "I've never actually seen this, but your tumors have shrunk by more than half." He said, "I typically don't do this." He said, "But go ahead and come back in 9 months, and I'll check you again." She went back 9 months later, even better, and today she's cancer free and healthy. Her and my dad just retired from Ohio down to Florida. She's water skiing, running 5Ks, and just really has incredible health. And she's in her mid 60s. She said she feels better now in her 60s and her 30s. So for me, Billy, that's how I tell my patients too. Like I've told my patients for years, I'm going to take care of you like I would my own mom and my own
Right.
family. And
Right.
so, I've got some chiropractors saying you shouldn't mix. I've got some people saying you're a DC, so you shouldn't tell people about nutrition, or
I know. I know.
I mean, all this stuff. And you know what? I just really go back to this helped my mom. I'm going to do what got her well. That's what I'm going to use with patients. And so
Right.
again,
Right.
I believe 100% in a scientific, specific chiropractic adjustment. I also believe in the benefits of nutrition and reducing stress and lifestyle and those things. So that's really the way I practice and what I try and teach today.
Good. And let me ask you this, because I've really kind of been off on this tangent lately. I mean, I try to wake people up to all the, I'm not going to say scams, but obviously I think vaccination's a scam. I don't know if we can say that on the show, but I'm saying it. I'm really kind of. Did your mom have a lot of mammograms before she was diagnosed, or what was the deal there?
You know what? She had, I think she had a couple.
Okay, not
It wasn't like
she got blasted.
during that time. It wasn't as regular as it was, up to a few years ago. For my mom, I think a big part of it was. I mean, my mom was so emotionally stressed. I mean, my mom had a lot of fear in her life
Right.
as well. She was fear of failure, fear of disappointing others, and so I think that was a big. But she didn't do anything right. I mean, the diet was junk. The
Right, right. I
fear.
mean, you can't just pinpoint one thing when somebody gets sick. It's usually just an
Yeah.
accumulation of everything layered on top of everything else. I've just been a big proponent to get people to get out of the whole cancer cartel and
Oh
that whole
yeah.
thing, because I mean, you have to look at the way that cartel works. They don't want anybody to come in with any other type of treatment. They just want to keep you in that chemo radiation boat. They want to keep
Oh yeah.
frying you with the mammograms. And I just know that over the years, even as early as the early part of the century, we've had so many different techniques that will wipe out cancer that have been so suppressed, ostracized, destroyed.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of sad, but that's the reality of what many times we have to do is we have to take health into our own responsibility and not believe in the system and not believe in the doctors. Not that the doctors are bad, but they're programmed to only teach one way just because of the paradigm that they're brought up in school. And
Yeah.
it's sad that, that's why, I really I'm a big teacher in my practice. Of course, they get the chiropractic story in my practice, but I address everything from, nutrition to EMF to the mammograms. And I like right now we're doing thermograms in my office, which I think is a
Yeah.
huge it's a screening tool that's been way underutilized. It's going to pick
Yep.
up cancer 10 years before, 8 years before a mammogram will. There's no
Yeah.
radiation. And then when you find positives, then you do positive things to try to circumvent its progression. So, I mean, you look at the way
Love
people
it.
are brainwashed in society, and like you said, it's not the doctors are bad guys. It's just they're practicing flat Earth science, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And in fact, since my mom's diagnosis, I mean, that's all we've done since is thermography. That's really the only testing. I mean, we do some vitamin and mineral testing and things like that too, but really, in terms of the medical tests, it's not something we do.
Right. And so tell me a little bit of how your practice went. You were in practice, you said, for 5 years.
Yeah, I was in practice for about 5 years, and we did chiropractic, we did spinal rehab. I worked with actually one person I forgot to mention that I mentored with in his office was a guy named Dennis Wogan. He
Oh,
runs a
cool.
Yeah, so Dennis is still a good friend. He runs Clear Institute, and so I learned a lot from Dennis. And so we did, the chiropractic adjustments. We did bite plates and a lot of different sort of therapy with that. And then we did nutrition consults, and that was really it. It was sort of that combination of chiropractic, spinal rehabilitation, and nutrition, and we would sometimes do nutritional testing for stool tests and gut and vitamin mineral deficiencies, food sensitivities like IgG, but aside that, I didn't go too beyond that. Like a lot of the heavy metal testing that's done today, some of it gets, I think some of it's actually a little too harsh on the body. I
Sure,
mean, it can
sure.
be beneficial, but it can be a little harsh. But in general, we saw just great results with patients with these things. And one of the other things, Billy, I mean, I'm just big into education. I mean, part of the reason why I don't practice today is because what I found is my favorite part of practice was not doing a nutrition consult or an adjustment. It was doing the health talk. It was opening up minds to the
Right.
truth of what's going on today. And so, that's why I started my website, drax.com, which today is one of the 5 largest natural health websites in the world. I
Wow.
started doing YouTube, and I just really found that, like I just love teaching. And so I got to the point to where we started getting enough visits on my site, on Facebook and YouTube, to where I was able to step into that full time. And I really feel like that's what God has called me to, is teaching people these health principles. So that's kind of the reason I transitioned out of practice. But I love what I do right now.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I've really always appreciated teaching as well. I think I'm a little bit more, I don't know what the word is, but I think you've really you make it easier for people probably to get in your boat than I do. I'm a little more. I've got a little more angst in my delivery, I think, which is it's just me. I mean, I'm just being me. I mean, I've got this burning passion on the inside. And it's hard for me to kind of like make it softer so people will jump in my boat. And it's an easy boat to get into once you kind of and that's the whole thing. It's like when
Sure.
you teach people, it's like you said. So why did somebody tell me this before? Why were we, why have I been led down this other path? And I've really loved the teaching part of it. The problem is I just love being in the office adjusting the kids. That's probably
Sure.
it's hard for me to give that up, dude. I mean, I've thought about it for years. I mean, the physical aspect of being in the practice and bending over tables all day. Yeah, I mean it gets tough, but for some reason I just don't want to give up the actual hands-on stuff too. It's
Well, I'll tell you, Bill. If there is one thing I miss, it is adjusting. Toddlers. I mean, you got kids, and I was only in practice like that for 5 years. But sometimes now I'll see them at Whole Foods or run into them, and it is for me. I mean, it was the most cherished part of my practice is
right.
adjusting kids. But that's awesome.
It's and like yesterday I said this to some parents. I go, the reason I like taking care of kids is because I can just be myself around kids, and I mean I have fun with the kids, and they love me because I'm animated with them,
Oh
and
yeah.
I mean, to me, it's like I come to work and it's like a party every day, and I get to adjust people and make a good living at it, and I'm my own boss. Let's talk on something that you touched on a word that I've really grown to appreciate. You said that you worked, which is like, wow, you mean you got to work? You did spinal screenings, and you went, and when you were in school, and you went and visualized the actors and the Ben learners. I mean, I've kind of seen. I was brought up with a huge work ethic. My dad kind of taught me that as a kid that, if you want something in life, you got to work for it. And again, I mean, I think work has turned into almost a 4-letter word for some people. And some people think that they're going to get like where you are and YouTube by just open up a page and you're going to explode into, this YouTube phenomena, which I'm not saying can't happen, but the reality of it happening and being able to make a sustainable living is not going to happen for everybody, or everybody would do it. But tell me how you got your work ethic.
Sure. Well, I mean, a big part of it was my dad. My dad was a military guy.
Yeah, perfect.
So, and my dad was, I had a great dad. I mean, my dad actually, my sister's pregnant. They're down here for her right now. My brother-in-law is actually a chiropractor. So I'll be, anyways, the child will be well adjusted. But my dad growing up, he was, he was a really encourager. Like, that's one of the things I loved about my dad. He was really encouraging, but he was also big into discipline. And so
Good.
he really always wanted us to be fit. He wanted us to be healthy, and so like my dad had a rule that whenever you come in from school, you have to do as many pull-ups as you can. So like we had a pull-up bar like right by our door when we walk in the garage in Ohio, and I would get up there and do pull-ups every day, but just stuff like that. And my dad, I mean that's really what gave me self-discipline and work ethic.
Right. And that's the same thing my dad taught me too. I was in, I really always, as a kid, I'd mowed yards. I mean, you wouldn't see any, I don't know if I can say white kids, but I'm saying it. You don't see white kids mowing yards anymore. We used to work in restaurants and wash dishes and bust tables. And I mean, I grew up working my ass off, but then I was always the kid that had things. I mean, I always had a nice car, and I had, I wasn't somebody that basically, my dad didn't make a lot of money, so it's like if we wanted stuff, we had to provide for ourselves, If I wanted a new pair of corduroy pants, I'd have to buy them myself. It wasn't like where you see kids today are a lot of times coddled and basically they don't have to work anymore. And then what happens is they get out in practice and they don't understand that they're going to have to go do spinal screenings. They're going to have to set up talks. They're going to have to go out and really hit the pavement hard. They're going to go out and canvas neighborhoods. Everything that we did to build a practice. So when was it that you decided that you wanted to give up practice and go into this whole social media thing?
Well, I actually a couple people, and you may know, I'd mentioned Jordan Rubin to you before,
right.
And I don't know if you know Pete Sulak.
No.
Pete is he's a great doc in Knoxville, great chiropractor. But so I was well, let me jump back a little bit. So I mean, even in school, I'd watch Dr. Mercola and Joe Mercola and saw what he was doing, and I thought, you know what, I really think what he's doing is great. And then I moved to Nashville, and I heard Dave Ramsey on the radio. And Dave Ramsey's a get out of debt guy, and I heard his radio show calling, and I thought, man, he's doing this for finances. I think I could do this for health. And so I started listening to his radio show.
Wow.
And then I called. Actually, a buddy of mine was working for him, and I called Simon. I said, Simon, hey, I'd love to really learn how to do this. And so he said, yeah, no problem. And so I started just sort of learning radio. I started my own radio show. Here was a 3-hour radio show, and it was call in where people would call in and say, hey, I've got high blood pressure. I'm struggling with endometriosis or whatever it is. And so I just started answering those health questions. And if I didn't know the answer, I looked it up, And
sure.
So that's really how I started, was radio. I started on the radio. And then I was...
now, did you do the radio in a way to build your practice, or was it something that you did just...
Well, yeah, I started having a ton of patients come in through the radio. Really, that was after a time. It was really about the only marketing I did was a radio show.
Right.
And so, yeah, I started doing the radio, and then from there, I was talking from someone at Dave's, and they said, "Listen, you can't just have your radio show. You need to have a website you send people to." And I said, "Okay, that's a great idea." And so I had somebody build out a website. And they said, well, you should start doing articles. And I thought, well, I'm already writing articles for patients, and they've asked me to post them online. So I started writing articles, posting those. I'd write 1 to 2 articles a week. I would do the radio show once a week.
Where would you post the articles?
Just right on my website.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and it was at the time. It was drax.com. That was the site. The same website I have today. And then later on,
it's got a nice ringtone to it too. The drax.com.
Yeah, it's simple. It's short.
Sexy. No, I like it.
And then I had actually my personal assistant, and she said, you know what? A lot of people are asking for you to do videos because I would post recipes, and they're like, they don't want you just to write the recipe; they want to show you how to make it. And I said,
Yeah,
well,
cool, cool.
okay. So anyway, so then I started doing recipe videos, and then it really kept growing. And then once I was in practice about 4 years, I had an opportunity to sort of step out of practice and work with Jordan Rubin on some things. He was founder of Garden of Life, wrote the Maker's Diet. He's
Right, right,
one of
right.
my good friends, and so and then also the website just really started taking off. Another friend of mine, JJ Virgin,
Of
who
course.
I had talked to before, had said, she said, hey, you really, I think you could really, do well online. You should start selling products. And I thought, because at the time I wasn't making anything. I mean, Billy, I'm going to throw you a number out at you that might shock you. I probably spent $500,000 on my website, 500,000, and made almost. Now I made money because some patients came in, so I made money.
Right,
But overall, I actually definitely lost tens of thousands of dollars my first 4 or 5 years of owning it until really the last 2 years, probably,
right.
because I just didn't know what I had. I mean, I didn't. I just didn't
You didn't know how
realize
to
it.
monetize, and that was one of the questions I was going
Yes.
to get to you next. But before that, let's jump back a little bit. How did you get started, and what did you do to get yourself on? Was that something you paid to do, or how did you get started on the radio?
Yeah, with radio, the first thing I did was it was something I paid to do, but I made I made a. I'm trying to think of the word for it, but I made sort of a sample tape. So I went
A
and did
demo.
a demo. Yeah, I made a demo, and I had my sister and my dad and a friend of mine, Jason, who was a chiropractor, Jason Maggio, and I had them calling because I was going to do a call-in show, and I was doing it live. I did it live every Sunday night from 6 to 9, and so I
Three
had them
hours.
3 hours. Yeah.
Wow.
Um, but it was the time slot that was open, and I knew that's how long Dave's was, and he does it 5 days a week. These political talk shows too. I mean, they just can talk all day, and so I sent in a mixed demo, and they're like, "Wow, this is really good. Well, you can have the time slot. We'll put you on,"
Okay, so
and
you
that's
did
kind
three
of.
hours on Sundays, and what would they charge you for that time slot?
Oh gosh, I want to say it was. It might have been five. It was maybe 500 an hour, $500
Oh,
an hour.
wow. So it was a heavy investment then.
Yeah, I mean it was 1,500. Yeah, I paid about 1,500 a week. So 6,000. Yeah, so 6,000 a month.
And obviously, you got enough patience out of it to warrant keep doing it.
Oh yeah, plenty. I mean, I probably got 40 to 50 new patients a month
Perfect.
through the radio show. So it was a lot, And I started, and they gave me some ad spot to put in commercials. I would promote live events and that type of thing through it. So it definitely paid for itself in that way.
And then, was it a major? It was in Nashville, correct?
It was in Nashville. Eventually, we got syndicated. I got picked up in Kansas City. We got picked up in West Palm Beach, Knoxville, Tennessee, and Minnesota. So we were eventually in 5 markets. But just to be honest, like today, we can do so much on the web. Trying to get my radio syndicated, it was like pushing a boulder up the hill
Right.
versus doing Facebook and YouTube. And here's advice I would give people if there are chiropractors watching and they're saying, this
Oh,
is
there
what I
are.
call
There's chiropractors
yeah,
watching.
it's what I call millennial marketing.
Right.
A lot of people today, they're trying to do the old-fashioned way of marketing, and social media. It takes time to build,
Of
but
course.
eventually It's like this out-of-control snowball that just keeps building and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Because at first it's 1 + 1 + 2, two times 2 is 4, but eventually it's just. I mean, the numbers get really big. So there's something new, by the way, on Facebook. It's called Facebook Live. And Facebook Live is probably the number one marketing tool anybody can use right now to reach more people. Facebook just launched it in March. It's brand new, and they're trying to compete with YouTube. So
Wow.
they're giving it about a 10 times reach compared to articles. Literally 10 times. So if somebody really wants to reach people, doing Facebook Live right now is actually the strongest way.
And how do you access that? I mean, I don't even know how to
So
access, and I'm
yeah,
all
so
over
so,
Facebook.
so if you go to Facebook, you can publish something. You can post a comment or post like an article, like people that post articles. Well, now you can click publish, but there's an option to post a video feed, and it's live video. It's a live video feed of yourself, and
Okay.
it's kind of like if people have heard of Periscope. People can ask questions live and make comments during your post. And so, anyways, it's a great thing to do, especially once you've built up an audience. If you have 1,000 people or more and have built up, somewhat of an audience, it's a great thing to do.
Okay, how did you get so internet savvy and so social media savvy? What was did you?
Yeah,
I know JJ has a training I've been to.
sure.
Uh,
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because at first it literally was like going back to school. I mean, I went to chiropractic college, learned how to practice and be a doctor, and I just kind of went back, Billy, and I just said to myself, okay, because when I opened my clinic, by the way, and I don't say this to like pat myself on the back, but I went from 0 visits to 1,000 in a year, and the way I did that was I modeled. I'm big in modeling, like Ben and
sure.
Chuck Majors and Dan are like, you need to get this many new patients a month, and I screamed my tail off
Right.
until
We
I had no
worked.
and I'm not saying I wouldn't do it that way again. Actually, I learned a lot of lessons, but I found out that modeling is the fastest way to succeed. And so I said, I got to get some good mentors in this space. So
Okay,
I
just
started
stop one
reach.
second. What would you do other than this? I mean, I'm obviously not big on screenings either, but what would you do different now if you just started practice for the people that are watching this?
Oh, sure. Well, here's what I would do for
That
all my
doesn't have
market.
a big social media following or anything.
Yep.
It just got out of practice.
Here's what I would do. I would still do some screening to start. Some of that stuff you have to do your first
Right.
six months, but I would start a social media presence now. I'd start posting articles, see if you can write and direct traffic there. But actually, you can hire someone. This is kind of a secret. I don't tell many people this. But this is where a lot of people now are getting patients. It's Facebook ads, running Facebook ads.
Is that where you boost it?
Yes,
Okay.
but it's an ad for Facebook, and you can run an ad for you to do a talk or a dinner. You can get them to a patient dinner. You can get them to a live health talk on nutrition or how to support hormones, whatever it is. But Facebook ads are huge. I would start that. I would build up your social media. I would do radio. I really think radio is a
Yeah, it's
great
great.
platform for reaching people. And then I would do patient dinners too. I think patient dinners, once you have a patient base, is really good. And then Facebook Live, like once people have an audience, I'm telling you, Facebook Live it's just where, because Google or Facebook right now does not give people much reach. In fact,
No.
organic reach, they killed it a year and a half ago.
Right.
But Facebook Live,
Is new and they want to get it
it's
opened up.
100%. It's completely strong for organic
Right.
reach.
Right. Well, cool. I
Yeah.
had a question for you here too. I just wanted to mention that I loved my grandfather was a huge radio celebrity in the Midwest in Nebraska. He
Okay. Cool.
actually gave Johnny Carson his first job in radio. You know Johnny Carson, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm
Of
not dating
course.
myself. He
Wow.
also worked along with Ronald Reagan, but he also worked consistently and with B.J. Palmer. And he used to tell me B.J. Palmer. He used to say he was a little bit out of his mind, a little crazy, and he said, but the guy had that passion, then a drive, and BJ was huge into the radio
Oh,
too. So
rock
that was that little
radio.
kind of. He was from Omaha, so it was that little kind of Midwest circa where that kind of the radio kind of emanated. And I've always wanted to get into radio. It's called time, dude. How do you find time to do everything?
Well, let me say this. So I don't do any of those things now. You got to remember, I was single. I wasn't married. I didn't have
Right, right,
kids,
right.
and so at that time it wasn't hard. But today to do radio, here's what I'd say. The hard part about radio was that I would have to drive into the studio every day or
Every
every
Sunday.
week. Now you can broadcast a live radio show from your home.
Right.
Like today, there's no way I would do that anymore. I mean, I would hire an audio guy to come over here, and the other thing is I would do it as a podcast and a Facebook Live. It's something actually. Brendan Bouchard, he's a guy that I've watched online.
Well,
He
he's
does
been on
something.
Cal Jam stage too. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, Brendan had no, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah. He
Okay.
actually, I went to his program and then had him come speak at my gig.
So what Brendan teaches, it's called circular virality, and he says when you're throwing a stone, let's try and kill 10 birds at a time, not one. So this is what I do today, by the way. When I do a video, I record a video
Yeah.
for YouTube.
Right.
At the same time, I'll have another camera recording me or my computer that's on for Facebook Live.
Okay.
So you're getting two videos at one time. With Facebook, you actually are answering the questions. At the same time, I take the audio, we turn it into a podcast, and we also have the audio that's taken and transcribed into writing, which then I have an editor come and turn it into an article.
Wow.
So I mean,
Amazing.
really, so that's today. You're right, because I mean, life is. I mean, it is busy, man. I mean, if I tried to do all those things separately, I would have no time. But I really am and try to be wise with my time. And anytime I record something, we utilize it across a lot of channels.
I'm learning a ton of stuff right now. I almost said shit, but learning a ton of stuff right now. You can bleep that out. Uh, this is great. What else would you say that you could recommend not only to the blossoming young chiropractor, but anybody that maybe is burned out in practice is about? Let me ask you this question: how often do you find? And I've learned this a long time ago because I've been in practice for 32 years. That the DC thing sometimes will turn people off. Like when I do a lot of stuff in my neighborhood, I do it for a couple of reasons though, but I don't advertise it. I just say a nutrition workshop with Billy DeMoss.
Yep.
That way, when I'm doing marketing, I don't turn off half my audience. What? Tell me a little bit about your opinions on advertising as a chiropractor.
Sure. I've got a lot of thoughts. I'll keep it here to about a minute. So here's what I'd say. First off,
It's not that we're embarrassed about being chiropractors, but why would we want to slam the door on half the people? We want, like, I've had people come to my workshops and they come in and they go, "Is this a chiropractic office?" I go, "Yeah, these are chiropractic tables and these are chiropractic patients." And I've had a couple people walk out, but you know.
Yeah. So I have a few thoughts on it. My first thought is perception is reality for that person.
Okay,
So
perfect.
it is an important thing to remember. I'm kind of not either or. I don't think that I should only be and I don't mean this in a
No,
negative
and I
term,
agree with you 100 friggin'
but
percent.
but I don't think that again. I'm going to say that it's well, again, I'm not going to hide that I'm a DC, but I'm not going to also say and it depends on the audience. That's
Of
another huge
course, of
thing.
course, of
But
course.
to certain audiences, I'm also not going to say that's first and foremost. And so,
Right.
because what I teach, the perception out there is that nutritionists and dietitians understand nutrition fairly well. And that's sort of the perception. So I went and got a CNS certification. It's Certified Nutrition Specialist. And so that way I could say I'm a certified nutritionist. And also I went and got a certification called DNM. It's called Doctor of Natural Medicine. And so even in my bio, I say all three. So I'm also not like, I see a lot of people or some chiropractors who will kind of take the DC and then bury it like, okay, we're going to bury this thing as deep as possible. I don't do that either, but I let people know my credentials, that I'm a DC, that I'm a DNM, that I'm a CNS. But here's the other thing I'll say, Billy. I actually, if I really get down to it, I don't think it matters a whole lot. I
Right.
don't. I think once people hear you, once people realize how knowledgeable someone is speaking, I don't think it's a big deal. Right now, with my website, we get almost 8 million visits a month. And if I said I was a DC, if I said I was an MD, if I said I was nothing, I actually don't know that would make that much of a difference. So when we're talking about dollars and cents and reaching people, I don't know that that's big of a deal. I mentioned him again earlier, but my business partner, Jordan Rubin, he wrote a book and had 2 million copies sold. He built Garden of Life. It's $1 billion company today, and he's one of the most well-respected nutrition specialists in the entire world. Actually, background, he did have his naturopathic degree in NMD, but because he was getting sued so much, he just dropped his license because he got to be
Right.
such a pain. So now he just goes by Jordan Rubin. But I actually don't think it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah. So let me backtrack now again too. You've written a book. I think it's Eat Dirt,
Mm-hmm.
which is a great title. I love it. Which
Thanks.
I think people should eat more dirt. To be honest with you,
Uh,
they need to eat some germs and get down in a grant. You know, that's why we have all these sick kids because we're all so germ phobic about everything. And I don't get me started going down that road. How hard was it to write the book, and what avenues did you take to do that? And what would you recommend for somebody like me who's busier? I mean, I've been trying to get this book off the ground forever called Surfing as a Religion, which is a
sure.
lifestyle book. What would you recommend?
Well, Billy, and this has been a huge life lesson for me. But hire a team. I mean, the thing that, dude, let me tell you, the biggest mistake, this is chiropractors in general. They try and do everything.
Everything.
I mean, it's like, because I get a call every week from a chiropractic buddy or someone else who's like, hey, how do I do something else? And I'm like, stop trying to do frickin' everything yourself. And so when I write today, here's what it looks like. The first thing I do is I come up with an outline. So that's something I do. I come up with an outline
for the book, say.
for a book.
Okay.
And then I get even more detailed with an outline. I start going through all the sort of different things I want to cover. I'll cut and paste some things. I'll start building, and then I'll take out each chapter and I'll cut and paste, or I'll just write on some ideas. And then what I'll do is I'll go and record something. And so I'll record an audio, and then I'll have that transcribed, and I'll transcribe that for each chapter. And then basically then I hire a writer to help fill the rest in, and then she'll call me, she'll do more interviews and more questions, and then I have an editor who edits it, and then I have a graphic designer who, but that's the whole thing. I mean, if I wrote a book myself, it would take 3 years.
Right.
That's real.
No, and I know that.
Realistic. That's how long it would take me, and it wouldn't even be edited right. That's the whole thing.
Right.
So it would take me 3 years. The way I do books now, it takes me less than. It would probably. I'm writing one right now on essential oils. We'll have the book complete in 4 months total, 4 or 5 months.
Perfect. And how much time do you think you dedicate towards that book in that 4 months? Your own time?
A week, I probably spend 8 hours.
Well, that's a lot still, though.
I'm pretty involved.
For me, 8 hours. I don't know if I got an extra 8 hours.
But again, that's to finish it in 4 months. If we're talking about 8 months, that's 4 hours a week. I mean, it's taking an afternoon and really putting time in. So but that's the biggest thing I'd encourage people to do. If you want to get it done,
what about those companies that will say, I've got a company that's approached me that wants to come and do interview me for 8 hours, get the content, and go back and write the book and do everything for you. What's your opinion of that kind of book writing?
I mean, I think I just think it depends on the person's cup of tea. I think for me, I'm like, I mean, my wife wouldn't call me a control freak.
No, I'm a control freak. You're a control. What zodiac sign are you?
I'm like really particular. Like, for instance, if a little something's off, like, I'm like, no, we've got to, like, I'm really fine tuned with that. But I think it's fine. I think here's the thing: in getting a big picture story, listen, what you're doing and saying this whole 8 hours, that's the only way pastors write books today. If you look at any book that's written by a pastor, they took 8 sermons, or a sermon is a chapter.
Yeah.
12, it's 12 sermons. There's 12 chapters in the book. I mean, this is the way what you're saying, this is the way everybody writes books today.
Right.
Everybody.
Right.
I think it's fun. I think it's great.
So, obviously, you've had some things come up where you couldn't speak at the clubhouse next month. Did we come to any decision whether you can do November, or what's the deal?
You know,
I'm putting you on the.
No, it's fine. You know what, Billy? I had this back injury. It was crazy. My wife loves CrossFit, and she likes working out together. And so I'm like, you know what? We're gonna go and I'm gonna go with her. This is, it'll be fun. I won't be an idiot. Well, I mean, and I'm not that built. Like, I'm a more wiry build. I'm not like, necessarily built like
You're more of an ectomorph.
Like a ton of. I'm more of an ectomorph. And so, anyways, I'm doing, military prep, and I hurt myself doing cleans for speed. It's like you're doing cleans in a workout, and I'm like, so hurt my back doing that. I hurt it again. So I ended up bulging and herniating 2 discs in my low back. And I had traveled so much for 3 years before.
No, I get that.
So finally this year, I told my wife, she's like, you need to stop. And anytime I get on a plane right now, my left QL is tightening, like my disc just is not healed. So I've been getting, recently got PRP done, platelet-rich plasma. I've been doing yoga. I've been getting adjusted.
I've had a lot of people tell me they do that, but I haven't really anybody tell me that.
You know what? I feel like it's helping. I definitely feel like it's helping. But just to tell you, man, I'm trying not to travel, especially long distances, this year. Well, 2017.
Southern California is not that far from Nashville, dude.
I mean, let me say, if I'm on a plane more than 2 hours, because I've flown. Actually, the only time I've flown,
you need to go to somewhere like Indonesia, and then you can put it all into relative perspective.
That's true. And I've been to China. I've been to Italy and some other places, and oh man, that trip to China was like a 20-hour plane ride. But that was when I was in Cairo school, so that was a while ago.
Okay,
but we can
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we can talk about. Give me a few more to see how this thing is feeling, because right now it's not where it needs to
No,
be.
and I'm nursing this friggin' AC sep, and I got the broken ribs and the medial compartment of my knee that I'm still nursing too. So I'm in the boat with you. I don't really appreciate traveling, but I'm leaving. I got to go speak to the Parker students coming up this Friday, which I'm looking
Oh,
forward to
cool,
doing. Yeah,
cool.
we have to do it off campus for some reason, but so
I
in
yes,
what's
yeah, I
that?
remember that at the end of school. I was trying to bring in speakers, and then we had to keep going off campus because all these speakers kept getting banned. Like
I'm banned.
almost every
I'm banned.
speaker.
I'm banned from Australia right now
Right, yeah,
because of my whole vaccine stance. They're very pro-vaccine down in Australia. Let me ask you this in closing, because I got to get onto. I'm gonna. Do you know Fred
sure.
DiDomenico?
Oh yeah,
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 I'm
yeah.
doing a Cairo and cars with him at 11, and then we're gonna go out and do a paddle on the bay with Nick's gonna do some drone footage of us. So
Oh,
I'm
cool.
saying if you come out here, we can do some fun stuff. Uh, if we put you on the Cal Jam stage, what would you bring to Cal Jam that would really spiz our audience?
You know,
Spizzerinkdom for people that don't know what spiz is.
yeah. I actually had a whole list here we didn't get to. We can do it on another interview. Or I could do a cow gym, but
No, I would love to do another interview because this has been awesome, dude. This is really good meat content that people can take home, which is awesome. I mean, I took great notes.
You know, I think, on the Cow Jam stage, I mean, I would really love to talk about being a DC, being a doctor of cause, addressing the root cause. I mean, just as a pre-frame, I see this all the time, Billy, and I see it both in chiropractors, I see it in nutritionists, I see it in MDs, where even though we're talking about nutrition, people still aren't addressing the root cause. And I'll give you an example of this, and I talk about this a little bit in my book, Eat Dirt. But if somebody has a thyroid issue today, hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's disease, it's not caused because your thyroid isn't working properly. For the most part, a lot of these issues begin in the gut. We know Hippocrates has had a couple quotes. Things like "Look well to the spine for disease," and "All disease begins in the gut." The reason why your brain and spinal cord and gut are so important, it's where all the nerve tissue is. It's why your gut is called your second brain.
Right.
We have got to address those areas. And I talk about healing leaky gut. It's so important that we address the nerve tissue with these things. But here's what happens. A lot of people will go into nutritionists today with a thyroid problem, and the doctor will they'll say, okay, I'm going to give you, ashwagandha root and selenium and thiamine, and or some sort of herb to treat the thyroid. That's still not addressing the root cause.
Right. That's
So
more an allopathic way of looking at things.
it is. And so we really need to get back to the root cause. We do need to check the spine in the areas that go to the thyroid.
Of
That's root
course.
cause. It's going and saying your emotional stress. We know emotional stress of fear and anxiety, that causes thyroid problems. We know that, hey, if you've got these holes in your gut, gluten's going to keep circulating, casein, toxins. It's going to keep causing autoimmune reactions and inflammation of the thyroid. So what do we need to do? We need to start to repair the gut lining with collagen and glutamine and bone broth and certain vegetable. There's certain things. And so one of the things I would really love to talk about is addressing the root cause. The other thing too is balancing the body. This medical model today, especially of antibiotics. I mean, antibiotics have been
Please.
they double your risk of cancer. They're the main cause of autoimmune disease today are antibiotics.
And then I think vaccines are too, personally.
Well, absolutely. Vaccines are huge. I mean, both of those things are causing major imbalances in Th1, Th2 immune response. So, I mean, I have a lot I'd like to talk about, but those are a few thoughts.
All right, well, let's do this. Let's schedule another podcast coming up because I think we could go on forever.
Sure.
And I got Fred just stuck his head in the door just now. Could you bring some people to Cal Jam? Could you help us sell some tickets?
Yeah, would love to. I mean, I know
you
a lot
got a
of
pretty good following on YouTube, right? How many followers do you have or subscribers do you have now?
I don't know. I don't check that. Probably close to maybe 280,000 there.
Okay, cool.
On YouTube, we've got over 1 million on Facebook.
Wow, so, I didn't know that.
Yeah, check it out. Check out our Facebook page.
I got some work to do, but you gave me some great ideas. Hey, I really appreciate you taking the time, brother.
Hey, no problem, Bill. Well, I'm a huge fan of Cal Jam, huge fan of what you do. Thanks for helping spread the true mission of chiropractic. And hey, have fun with Fred. Tell him I said hey.
All right, rock and roll, brother.
Cool. All right, check you later.
Peace out,
Bye.
bro. God bless.
I love rock and roll!
Not just one child. I said, you change it for the school.
Not your emotion, their emotion.
Well, because everybody has a self-healing mechanism. We know that.
Your community is desperately waiting for you to show up.
Wake up out of your apathetic slumber. Tell the people all about the principles of chiropractic.
Is you are the vessel of the change.
Ability to move that keeps us alive.
What would you do if I sang out of tune? Would you stand up and walk out on me?
$7 can get you a romance novel, a #1 combo at In-N-Out Burger, a 12-pack of granola bars, a cup of green juice, or 1 month of access to the CalJam network. At CalJam, we take pride in the array of topics our speakers have covered over the past 8 years. With the CalJam network membership, most of our speakers' talks can be accessed. In our network, you can also find numerous seminars from the Dead Chiropractic Society's monthly meeting with over 100 chiropractors and some of the best speakers in the profession. The CalJam network is your all-access pass to CalJam and DCS workshops, videos, and chiropractic content. From past CalJam speakers to recent DCS seminars, the network is a great resource for anybody passionate about chiropractic health or global sustainability. So don't miss out! We upload new and exciting content monthly, which can stream on any device, even your smartphone. Join the CalJam network today for only $7 a month at caljam.org/network.